Flight 2000 is done. I picked up this project February-ish last year, 2025. I guess maybe it wasn't really a project. It worked mostly. I mean, we had some drop target issues, some walker issues, some flipper issues, and the playfield was not quite as blown out as most Flight 2000 playfields are, but still it was sunken inserts, lost artwork. Cabinet was pretty rough, structurally sound but pretty rough. So I would say this was a player's condition system pin with some minor stuff not working, but we got all that sorted out earlier this year, and then I started the restoration project. So here we go. Powder coated armor, side rails, legs, coin door, some other miscellaneous parts on here, apron. Speaking of the apron, custom decal from A-board on Pinside, does fantastic work. Did these in blue and yellow for me. Carried the yellow accent to some 3D printed parts that I did, custom for the pin. One are the flipper buttons. Those normally only come in red, white, or clear, and maybe blue. Could not find yellow, so went ahead and 3D printed my own. Also, these little accent rings for the bolts, pretty commonly found out in the marketplace, but they're silicone, and the yellow silicone ones actually look kind of tan. So I wanted some brighter yellow to match the other accent yellow colors on the pin. So I went ahead and 3D printed my own. And same thing with the beehive shooter. So the beehive shooter plastic normally comes in white, blue, and I think red. White's predominant, but again, I wanted yellow, so 3D printed my own. Same thing with the credit button, normally white. This came out actually pretty nice. I bought a new plate for my bamboo 3D printer, a smooth plate, so when this printed face down, it doesn't have the rough texture it normally feel on the default texture plate. So this is nice and smooth, and it actually feels like molded plastic instead of a 3D print. And decal by A-board as well. And it's the original coin door, just media blasted and powder coated. And paint, just really it's Rust-Oleum rattle cans and a pinball pim stencil. It's amazing what you can do with a pinball pim stencil to make this look really nice. Rust-Oleum rattle cans. I believe the base color was sail blue, and then sunshine yellow, and then gloss black. If any of you want to recreate this color combination on your Flight 2000 restorations. CPR back glass, CPR playfield, and I think these plastics are CPR. They're certainly not OEM, but these actually came on the pin, and they're in really decent shape. I just went ahead and reused them. They look pretty new, so these got to be repros. One thing though is that a previous owner, when he was trying to put these bell standoffs, normally they are attached to the plastic, and there's a trick you can use with the soldering iron or some other heating element where you can melt the hole around the plastic a little bit to fit over the top of the bell and then have it adhere and stick, kind of like mimicking the way they stuck on at the factory. When a previous owner tried to do that, for the most, I used like 50-50 successful. Some of them stayed, some of them didn't, but regardless, all of them had burn marks on all of the holes. So when you put your little, the little rubber acorn cover nut on them, or the regular silver screw post, you can see the brown burn marks on the edge and didn't look very good at all. So my solution to that was a black washer and black screws to kind of go with the, the black motif that I'm doing here. And the black washer covers up that burn hole mark that pretty much was on every single hole in the plastics for securing the plastics to the posts in the playfield. So I'm pretty happy the way that turned out. I think that actually wound up looking better, and I might not have thought of it if I wasn't trying to cover up the burn marks from the previous one of the previous owners. Another challenge that I ran into, getting these spinners to really not only spin freely, but to come to a rest in the proper position. That takes a lot of maneuvering around with the spinner arms, the brackets, making sure that things are absolutely perfectly straight. And while I was trying to straighten out the brackets, I broke one of them. It was just too brittle, and it was bent. I mean, it was mangled. It was bent in 3 or 4 different directions. And as I'm trying to straighten it out, it snapped right off of my hands. So I wound up taking the measurements from those, hopped into Tinkercad, and printed my own 3D bracket. And I was going to do this temporarily because I couldn't find the replacement bracket online. So I thought I'll only do a 3D print and bide my time until I can find a regular bracket and stick that in there. But after I printed this, I was like, that actually looks pretty good. I like that. So I went ahead and printed for the other one too, for a match pair. And I think that's the way I'm going to leave them. Kind of like the way that looks. Went with the black acorn nuts as well. Of course, black flippers, yellow accent for the flipper rubber. Playfield, gorgeous. I mean, it's brand new, right? Inserts nice and shiny, no cuppage, modern clear coat. This thing plays fast and furious. Drop targets, printed my own drop targets. These things are rather notorious, these 5 bankers on here for 2 reasons. One, constant bricking. Number 2, falling down on reset. And after messing around with the original ones that were in here and some repros, I just decided to print my own with 100% infill on the print. And it has cut down on the bricking. It still bricks every once in a while, but they're really solid and reliable as far as resets go, with none falling on a reset. Bonus for doing your own printers or your own print jobs is that any artwork that you put on there, if it's simple artwork anyway, is embedded. It's not a decal. This is not a decal. This is black plastic, 3D printed, embedded into the white target. And same thing for these guys over here. So I just took the Stern logo and incorporated that into my print. These are not decals. And of course, once you make them in your design, you can make the artwork any color you want. Of course, these were blue, so I made these blue. Of course, the original ones were blue, so I made these blue. But you can make them any color you want. In fact, I think I know I've seen green on Quicksilver. I've seen red. I've seen yellow. So that's really easy to do when you're 3D printing. And speaking of 3D print, here's some other stuff that I've done. These stand-ups. There's one here. There's one here. These two white ones, and then there's a red one here. So I 3D printed those. Did my own design on Tinkercad. The original ones, they were functional. They worked. They were just dingy beyond repair. Especially the white ones. The white ones were blotchy tan in color. So I tried all sorts of different cleaners and cleansers and degreasers, ultrasonic cleaning, mean green, crazy clean, and even soaking them in peroxide and then sticking them under UV light for several hours. It improved them a bit, but they just weren't crisp and white. So I couldn't find them online anywhere, so I just went ahead and 3D made them myself. And I figured, hey, even though the red one wasn't quite as bad, the original one, since I'm making new white ones, why not make a new red one as well? So went ahead and did that. Let's see, more 3D stuff. I've forgotten the coin door. These coin chutes. This is plastic. This is the frame that holds behind this bezel, it holds the price plate in place, and then it connects to the metal chute on the inside of the coin door. But this is plastic piece. You can only find these online in white. And I had some white ones and I put them in there, and the white just broke up the black and just didn't blend in. So once again, got it in a Tinkercad, made my own design, printed it out. That looks pretty good, I think. Let's see. Oh, here's another example where I just went ahead and spent some money because it was the right thing to do if you're going to go this far with a restoration. So, not only are the leaf switches on all these kickers shiny and new, so are the kicker arms and the pivot plates, or the pivot arms that secure these and make them come forward. Of course, you can't do that now with the plastics on you. You can't see them come forward, but yeah. See, all these kicker arms and the pivot arms underneath, all shiny and new. It's going to last another 4 decades. Pinball Life makes these. They're about 10 bucks a piece for the pivot arm and for the kicker arm. So it's basically 20 bucks a set. So 20, 40, 60, 80. So invested $80 in that. But the other kicker arms, the original ones, and the pivot arms were good structurally. They just looked horrible. They were all corroded, stained. Some of them were rusty. I did clean them up pretty good. I mean, you soak them in a vapor rest for 24, 48 hours, throw them through the ultrasonic cleaner, even put it on the bench buffer for a little bit. But, I was putting hours of time, of labor in getting them to be the point where they look about 60 to 70% of what these look like brand new. So for 80 bucks, yeah, it was the right thing to do for this level of a restoration. Since Pinball Life had them available, just went ahead and got them. So pretty happy with that. Yeah, overall, I think she's looking pretty good. Probably one last thing to point out before we move on to the inside the back box. Pop bumpers. That's another detour that I took from an OEM look. So for pop bumpers, I went with translucent. So we got translucent bodies, translucent caps, Comet LEDs, and well, all the LEDs here are from Comet. The GI is warm retro white, and the feature lights and the inserts for the most part are color matching, except for the yellows. I put cool white under yellows because it just makes the yellows look better, especially in the letters. They look more like what I remember as a kid. I tried putting yellow LEDs under the yellow inserts, and it was too dark. It was too mustardy. So cool white works better with these guys. But green, red, amber, blue. I went with color matching LEDs. Purple as well. Anyway, back to the pop bumpers. So yeah, translucent bodies and caps. I went with black skirts, and you might not be able to see it under there, but the mounting bracket for these pop bumpers is also black. The original ones were white, and I came across the black reproduction ones on Marco's, and I thought, you know what, that would blend in nicely with the black skirt so that it doesn't contrast or stand out too much like it did on the OEM. I think on the OEM ones you had your kind of mustard dark yellow caps, you had white bodies, I think you had yellow skirts, and then you had that white mounting bracket that you can see under the skirt, and then the natural wood ring around there, and it was just really, really busy. I tried making my own reproduction caps with the original design, and while they fit and they look okay, it just didn't pop, so to speak. And so I decided to go with the translucent after I saw somebody else do translucent caps on a pin. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was Xenon. But anyway, I thought it was, what the hell? I'll put them on there and see what they look like, and I actually quite like them. And these pops, I love the design of these pops too, mainly because unlike Bally and Williams, where you're drilling nails through the playfield to secure the base on there, and it's pretty arduous to not only install and remove, because they're never meant to be removed, but also to adjust the leaf switches and get them all dialed in so that you got a good 360-degree pop range when a ball hits it. That's a pain in the neck to do that. But this design that Stern did, I really like. All you got to do is take the cap off on the top, and then you'll see when we go look inside the cabinet in the underside of the playfield that this bracket, this self-contained bracket that has everything in there, just has 4 screws to take out. You take out those 4 screws, and this whole assembly just removes, and you can take the pop bumper entire assembly, put it on your bench, dial it in, get your leaf switch in concert with the spoon, get that adjusted for maximum 360-degree sensitivity range. It's very, very convenient. I love that design. I'm not sure why they didn't carry that forward in other pins. And another thing you'll see on the underside when we turn when we get inside the cab and look at the back side of the playfield is that all these rollovers. You got the 6 down here, and you got the 4 up here, and then you got these rollovers in the Walker maze. They all have been converted from leaf switch to micro switch. I really do like micro switches. They are more reliable, in my opinion. They do not require adjustment or maintenance once you get them dialed in. And even better, a micro switch has a different actuator design internally inside the cherry switch than a leaf switch. With a leaf switch on fast hitting targets or rollovers, like the B here and the O, where things can move through here real fast, or on the T up here, where you can do a shot from the bottom of the play field all the way up through here and fly through that rollover lane. By design, in the schematic, there are caps on those leaf switches so that the cap can detect better and more frequently and more reliably a fast switch hit like that. With the micro switches, you don't need that cap. I have played 50, 60, 70 games on this already, full games, where I have hit these lanes as fast as you're ever going to hit them with a ball. All of them, even the tee up top. And not once has it failed to register or score. So very, very pleased with the micro switch activity here. And in fact, I do that for a lot of my other pins as well. I converted all the micro switches or all the leaf switches in Flash Gordon to micro switch, as well as Matahari and even 8-Ball Deluxe. So the rollover lanes are really, really reliable and require pretty much zero maintenance. One other modification I had to make here is underneath the trowel. You'll see this gate here. It's a one-way gate. I designed and 3D printed a mounting bracket, and then bent some wire in the shape of a gate. And the reason I had to put this in here is with CPR playfields, there is, I think, too much clear coat in the trough slots where the balls roll down. So much so that the balls are resting on top of each other in the trough, waiting to be ejected into the shooter lane. When the ball gets ejected from its spot right about here in the rightmost area of the trough into the shooter lane, the next ball that's sitting on top of it gets a kind of a back hit. As the ball gets ejected this way, the other ball moves this way, and the third ball that's resting here will actually come out and be visible on the apron, and then it has to roll back in. I've talked to several other folks on Pinside who have the same phenomenon occurring to them on their CPR playfields. There are a number of ways to attack it. You could, file down the clear in the slots and try to dial it in that way. I did a light job of that. Didn't quite get it to where I wanted, and I thought, well, let's just put a one-way gate in here. So what this will do is that when that ball gets ejected back out through here, it's going to hit this gate and it's not going to go past this gate, and it's going to push it right back into where it's supposed to be. It works reliably 100%. Like I said, I've played 50, 60, 70 games in this already. I have not seen the ball come out onto the apron at all. And this is still, you know, solid as a rock. It's secured with 3M double stick tape onto the back of the trowel hardware. And most importantly, it is not visible from the player's position or even the side position if someone's standing here watching. Of course, when they're watching, they're going to be watching this way anyway. But it really only becomes visible if you get way back on the machine and actually look in there. So very pleased with that mod. That seems to be working really well. And that's about it for the outside walkthrough. Let's take a look inside the back box. All right. Inside the back box. Well, first off, using warm white retro single SMD LEDs for the GI on the lamp board, as well as the feature lamps, with a couple of exceptions. Of course, you saw the flames and the contrails on the rockets. These are done by the Fire LEDs from Comet. Got 2, 4, 5 of those in there for the contrails. Open up the door. You see all modern boards. I got a Weebly MPU, Weebly solenoid driver module, Weebly lamp, Weebly soundboard, and a Gladstone VSU2 speech synthesizer. Reproduced all the back box cards. Stuck with white. I was gonna age them in yellow to kind of give it a worn look, but I figured, oh, fresh paint, might as well have fresh cards, looking cards anyway. Redid the entire lamp board, took it all apart, took off all the grounding wires and everything. Normally, the back of this is just natural wood, but like the front, I just went ahead and sanded out the imperfections. Most notably in here, there's a huge old knot. You can see the outline of the knot before I took it out through sanding and primer and paint. So in the original look, you can see that big old knot there. So I figure as long as I'm doing the front of the lamp board, we'll go ahead and do the back as well. So that's nice and clean. And of course, displays are LED, not high voltage, which is why the driver board does not have a high voltage circuit. This is a cheaper version of the Wembley, so that you don't have to, or Weebly, so you don't have to pay for the parts for the high voltage if you're using LED versions for the displays. Now the displays that came in here were actually not in bad shape, but I just wanted to go LEDs just for reliability. Also, amongst other parts on the playfield in the cabinet, I 3D printed these display trays. Would not recommend using 3D printed display trays if you're using high voltage displays. You don't want plastic sitting next to 180, 190 voltages. So at 5 volts, plastic's perfectly fine. And of course, when you 3D print your own parts, you can make them your own color, you can do your own design flares on them. It's really easy. And just like all the other wire harnesses, these were totally removed, all repinned. Nice new Molex connectors. Ultrasonic cleaned and followed by a rinse through in the dishwasher. Got all the dirt and grime off of here. The flashing was actually original. It's in pretty good shape. Normally I'll take roof flashing material and cut that down to fit a back box. But this one was in good enough shape that just needs some polishing up. Hardly any scratches at all, maybe a dent here and there. Not enough for me to want to dig in and redo the flashing from scratch. That's a several-hour job from start to finish, and it only took about an hour to clean this up. And then it's got the extra added benefit that, you know, all the holes in the flashing are in the right spots for all the mounting brackets, mounting posts, and all the wire clamps. So nice benefit there. All right, let's have a look down inside the cab. Let's have a look inside the cab. We'll start with the coin door. Of course, this was all torn down to individual pieces, down to the last nut, bolt, and screw. And I replaced the test switches with new cherry switches, nice and bright white. Wiring harness, ultrasonic cleaned. And we powder coated some parts black here to kind of go with the blackout motif. All the switches are working. Coin reject works. Coil lockout works. Slam shut works. Let's go inside the cab. I typically elect to paint all the way up the sides, all the way down the sides and the floor when I redo a cabinet. It's a little easier on my part. It's not the exact original OEM look of the plywood or MDF bare wood floor, but it makes the work a lot easier to go, and I think it's kind of aesthetically pleasing as well. So, new modern rectifier board. Of course, I replaced the speaker with something a little bit more modern. Transformer was in good shape. Just cleaned up the wires, totally disconnected everything, ultrasonic cleaned all the wire harnesses. And new leg mounting plates. Although this isn't original, because I think all the early sterns came with a bare exposed power switch. I designed and 3D printed a little cover to go over the power switch. I usually do that to all my restorations. And same thing with the flippers. So I could not find this style flipper button in yellow, and I wanted to keep with the yellow motif or accent colors against the black. So 3D printed my own button and retaining plate in the colors that I wanted. And these grounding straps originally were just bare metal strips. So I took the OEM strips and just put some yellow sheath covering on them. And the tilt board, I think, has all original parts on here, just cleaned up a bit. With the exception of the wire clamps, I 3D printed those wire clamps as well. And of course, I reproduced the tech cards and warning cards and diagrams and all that stuff on heavy cardstock paper. I thought about artificially yellowing it with age, but ultimately I just sticked with the white. What the heck. And lockdown bar receiver, I had that powder coated black as well. And then onto the playfield, underside. You'll notice some departures from the OEM look on here with the light boards. Got those from Pinball Reproductions. Very easy to maintain. I use 555 incandescents or LEDs. They even burn out. Twist and pull, replace. Don't have to mess with any wires. And it gives the overall underside a nice clean look. And that clean look lends to easier maintenance as well if you have to go in there and fiddle with something. Micro switches. I'm a fan of micro switches. Whenever it's feasibly possible, I'll replace rollover leaf switches with micro switches. Just love the sound, and it's black and white, binary on and off. And you got that nice click to let you know it's engaged. Never needs adjustments. doesn't need cleaning, and my personal track record with them is very, very high. I know some people, especially in some of the Williams-Bally's games, they have micro switches, have problems diagnosing problems with them and often just replace them. These cherry switches, I got these from Pinball Life. These have held up for years. I put them in all my games whenever I can. Matahari, Flash Gordon, even 8-Ball Deluxe has micro switches in them. The Thru came with micro switches for detecting 3 balls. But this one I converted to micro switch. This was a leaf switch originally. So this is the eject hole for launching the ball into the shooter lane. I put a micro switch in there with a long enough extended actuator arm that it actually works with the, and of course rebuilt flippers. All new parts on the flippers, including switches. The infamous huge 5-bank drop target. As I mentioned earlier, I 3D printed my own drop targets themselves with the graphics embellished in. They're not labels, they're not stickers. This is kind of a bear to dial in though. Fortunately, this is an OEM design. You just unplug this and then you undo the 4 screws, 2 on each side, and this whole unit just pulls out. So you can work with it on your bench. Very handy. I kind of applied this same idea to the pop bumpers. So I put, I wired in my own Molex plugs, not just for the coils and switches, but the GI as well. So that all I got to do is snip this out, or not snip it, but pull it out, pull this out, and then you got 4 screws on either plate, and the whole pop bumper assembly pulls out after you take the cap off, top side of course. That way you can work on the entire pop bumper assembly on your bench and dial in the spoons and leaf switch action, which is very, very convenient. Instead of doing it upside down and with the playfield in the service position like this, you can just pull it out. And more micro switches for the rollovers at the top. And then the blast off row of LEDs with the light board. And as you're seeing in pictures during the restoration, the entire harness obviously was removed off of the old playfield and thoroughly cleaned with a degreaser, ultrasonic cleaner, and then ultimately a dishwasher on a rinse cycle. Brightened up the colors, got 40 years, 46 years of dirt, gunk, and grime off of there. Your hands no longer turn a different color of black or brown when you're handling the wire harness. Everything's all nice and squeaky clean. And a clean pinball machine is a well-running pinball machine. And speaking of well-running pinball machines, let's go ahead and button this back up and play a game or two.